This is Jeff Standridge, and this is the Innovation Junkies podcast. If you want to drastically improve your business, learn proven growth strategies, and generate sustained results for your organization, you've come to the right place. Over the next half hour, we're going to be sharing specific strategies, tactics, and tips that you can use to grow your business, no matter the size, no matter the industry, no matter the geography. We'll be talking about everything from sales and marketing to organizational, operational, and leadership effectiveness, to innovation, digital transformation, everything in between. Routinely, we'll bring in a top mover and shaker, someone who's done something unbelievable with his or her business. We'll dig deep. We'll uncover specific strategies, tactics, and tools that they've used to help you achieve your business goals. Welcome to the Innovation Junkies podcast.
Hey guys, if you're looking to put your business on the fast track to achieving sustained strategic growth, this episode is sponsored by the team at Innovation Junkie. To learn more about our strategic growth diagnostic, go to innovationjunkie.com/diagnostic. Now let's get on with the show.
Hey guys, Jeff Standridge here, and welcome to the Innovation Junkies podcast.
Yeah, it's Jeff Amrine here as well. And we are so fantastically lucky today to have Matt Francis with us, the founder of Ozark Integrated Circuits. So I'll give a little bit of background. Hey, Matt. So we're gonna brag on you here a little bit.
That's right.
So it's Dr. Matt Francis founded the Ozark Integrated Circuits in 2011, and it's become a key player, really a world-class player in the emerging field of IoT for extreme environments. He's an entrepreneur. I know he lives on a big farm and has horses, and he's also an active volunteer with IEEE, and importantly serves as a city council member in Elkins. So in his spare time, right?
Yes, yeah. Actually, my wife likes to say I run an electronics company in my spare time. But
you do that to
well,
support
you do
your
a
hobbies.
darn good job of it, for sure.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Give us kind of the lowdown, a little more background and detail on Ozark Integrated Circuits and some of the really amazing and disruptive innovation that you're doing there.
Well, sure. So somehow we just celebrated our 10th year being here in South Fayetteville. So Ozark, we started Ozark with trying to solve the problem of basically putting electronics in places that electronics don't want to work. And as you can imagine, in the world of all things tend to work at room temperature, because that's where most of the world lives. But if you're in a jet engine or you're trying to explore energy and industrial environments, there's a lot of places where things get really hot, really cold, lots of vibration, and those electronics fail. And so the IC part of Ozark IC is integrated circuits, which are things based off of semiconductors, right? So processors and computers and things like that. And so we actually started from that end of things back in 2011, trying to solve the circuits part. And then over time, we figured out, well, we can kind of do that, but then we have to actually hook them into the systems. And so that's called packaging in our world. And so we've developed a lot of packaging, and I think where we really got innovative is we do starting from the software side, how we design the circuits. We've done the majority of our design is done on open source. I'm a big advocate of open source platforms, and that gave us a lot of ability to innovate, write our own tools and things to tackle this really kind of different problem from the mainstream. And then within the electronics themselves, we use a lot of additive manufacturing to customize things, and a lot of just like really digital processes, database driven manufacturing processes, because as you might imagine, the things we use to make this stuff work at really high temperatures are kind of exotic, and so you need to optimize your waste and make sure that it works the first time, because it can become a very expensive problem if you have to iterate a lot.
So here, I'd like to know, Matt, just for my background, how did you get in? How did you come to start trying to solve this problem?
with Ozark?
Sure. So I'm a graduate of the University of Arkansas. I did my PhD work in radiation hardened electronics, and the U of A's had a really strong background in this area for a number of years. And so previous company that I was a participant in starting, we were doing radiation hardened design and modeling and things like that. But we were really on the analysis side of telling you if we thought it was gonna work or not. And that company didn't go. If you can imagine, a tool for an engineer is a lot smaller market than what the engineer makes. And so when I started Ozark, I really wanted to be on the other side of that, actually making the products, making the hardware. And so with Ozark, with my co-founders, we were looking at different markets and things, and we said, well, this high temperature market seems to be a place in particular where there's not a lot of there's not complete solutions. And so based off some of the strength of some of the research being done at the U of A, where we could collaborate on some things, and facilities like the Hydens Electronics Center here, we started looking at high temperature electronics technologies. And then I think really where we kind of blossomed is we started figuring out what the applications really were, what the challenges really were, and started mapping those. And so over time, like I said, we said more went from being more of kind of a traditional what they would call a fabless design house, where you just do the design, send it out, and became a fully integrated manufacturer. Where we do the majority of our electronic integration and packaging in-house, as well as the design.
And you've leveraged in kind of a spectacular way the Small Business Innovative Research Awards from multiple agencies. Some of our listeners may be familiar with that, but some are not. I mean, I think it'd be instructive to talk about how critical that's been to the growth and how you've used that over the years to propel the growth and expansion of the company.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So the SBIR STTR program, it's Small Business Innovation Research, and the STTR is Technology Transfer. And those are programs. It's a set aside for each federal agency that is targeted exclusively to small businesses. They all use it slightly differently, but essentially the government is your customer. And so we've been able to, I think we're up to like I know we've won more than 14 now of the various awards, but from agencies like NASA, Air Force, Department of Energy. And each of those agencies has different careabouts of things that they see as application or technology gaps. And so as a small business, this is non-dilutive funding that you can apply for. The phase one awards are typically on the order of $125,000 to $250,000, depending on the agency, six months to a year. And then once you've gotten into phase one, you can go to phase two. You've hopefully developed your commercialization strategy during phase one, really expanded that. That's a big part of the transition. But then those phase twos can be up over $1 million, depending on the different mechanisms. And so that now you're in a multi-year development cycle. And like I said, as Jeff mentioned, we've been able to really leverage those. I think at this point we've gotten close to $10 million that we've raised through those programs, developed a series of platform technologies that we've then been able to solve real customer problems with. So it's basically our R&D funding. The R&D arm of our company has been funded by SBIR, and then we're now we transition those technologies into products.
Matt, that's fantastic. $10 million of R&D funding through SBIRs and STTRs. One of the things we want to do is help our listeners understand how they can grow their companies through innovation. And so what do you think, using you as a case study, for instance, what do you think differentiates you in terms of your success regarding SBIRs? I mean, many organizations are lucky to win maybe one or two of those awards. You're at the 14 level, right? So what do you think differentiates Ozark Integrated Circuits when it comes to SBIR and STTR applications?
Oh, I think there's a couple of things. Because starting out, I wrote and managed the majority of those, and there's obviously a limit to just how many projects one person can do. And so a key thing that I'm pretty proud that we've been able to do is, as we've grown our team, we've been able to grow additional staff around the SBIR program, bring them up through it. And so right now, for example, I have 4 people running programs within the company, not just myself. So I think that's one thing it's sort of you sort of have to develop, if you're going to go down that path, you have to develop a whole team. And when we do proposals and projects for that matter, it isn't a one-man show. We collaborate on those together. We have different members of our team that bring different strengths to the proposal. Some understand the application part better. Some understand the technology part, the business part. And then utilization of resources in that proposal process. So Rebecca Todd and the folks at the Arkansas Small Business Technology Development Center, they helped us tremendously with market studies and really figuring out how our technologies fit. And we've now, I think the thing that took us from winning a couple here and there to really starting to just win a ton of projects in a lot of different areas is we realized that we have several platform technologies. And so once you have that understanding and that roadmap, you now realize, oh, well, I have this technology or a series of technologies and I'm applying it to different problems. So that means your business plans and all that kind of stuff that seems like a ton of work in these proposals is not so hard, because the markets get shared and the technology information gets shared. So I think that's really as our commercial strategy firmed up, we actually started winning more of them than when we were really just more like technology focused, right? And then I think the last part of it is just having a culture of customer empathy, because these are just like, in many ways, just like any kind of commercial bid, in that it's just more formal, right? It's more written and formal, but you still have to explain to NASA or the National Science Foundation or whoever you're pitching to, why me? Why me? And that always starts with understanding their problem. And I think we do a really good job of explaining back to the agency what we think their problem is, owning that problem, and then selling our technology on it. And so I guess from that perspective, it isn't any different than just good sales. But I think that's one of the things that separates us, is we really do try to understand the broad problem they're trying to solve and where we fit inside it.
Very good.
You're developing really strong application domain knowledge in some very disparate sectors. You've got Miller Aerospace, and you've got geothermal, and you have space applications and whatnot. Talk about some of those applications and how you came to realize that if you have stuff that has a broad operating temperature spectrum or can handle high radiation, how did you resolve to look at those 3 verticals initially?
Well, I'd like to say there was a distinct strategy, but I think some of it just comes through stumbling into the right things at the right time, and keeping your ears open, the ears to the ground. But some of the initial high temperature work we did, we were looking at some. It was driven more by what funding opportunities were available, like for example from NASA, and so. So NASA, I love, this is one of my favorite examples of SBIR and how you have to understand the difference between the technology and the business case. We figured out that we thought we had some really good technology and approaches for solving a problem that NASA had, which was they wanted electronics that would work on the surface of Venus. Okay, it's a really challenging problem. You're talking about 500 degrees Celsius, so nearly 1,000 Fahrenheit, 100 bar pressure, so 100 times earth pressure, with traces of sulfuric acid coming down in the sky. Okay, it's a nasty place. So Venus, this is the U.S. we still haven't said anything there. We're just really starting to look at it. And so, as far as a market, it's really small, because I could make one set of devices for NASA, and in 5 or 10 years it goes to Venus, but that's not going to sustain my company. And so that's part of the SBIR program. They not only do they recognize that, they intend that you said you have a commercial market for this, right? You can solve our problem, but you have a market. And so in the process of that, we looked at some different spaces, and we started poking on this thing called enhanced geothermal that people have been working on. And this is really drilling geothermal wells. I mean, honestly, some of them so deep you almost hit magma. Okay. So it's getting to what they call hot rock. Well, you start looking at that, and gosh, the pressures are higher than Venus, and the temperatures almost as high. So we kind of make this connection. It's like, oh, that's if you go out to Venus, and it's this way, and if you go down in the Earth deep enough, it's almost like Venus again. Well, that was obviously a bigger market than a terrestrial market than space market, and so we started exploring how we could pivot and apply that technology down there. And then in the meantime, we started doing some work at lower temperatures for mil-aero applications like jet engines, and along the way started figuring out, across a jet engine you have everything from the intake at some quite cold to the afterburner could be over 1,000 degrees. So there's temperature regimes within that engine that start looking like Venus, and so we started exploring that market, and then along the way, as we did these, we started identifying the key players in each market, developed champions in different different companies and industries, and then you start building up, as Jeff was saying, that kind of application knowledge, that what works here, what works there. What special things do you have to do to make it work in the same technology, but make it work in this application versus that application? And so I think a lot of it is just listening, whether it's listening to your end customer, or listening to your essentially your investor in this case, which is the government, the different agencies, and what they're trying to solve, and mapping those things.
Hey folks, we'll be right back with the episode, but first we want to tell you about a limited opportunity to take advantage of our strategic growth diagnostic. For a short time only, we're offering a free strategy call to see whether or not our unique diagnostic tool is right for you. Go to innovationjunkie.com/diagnostic to learn more.
We talk with a lot of folks, and we talk about customer discovery and customer empathy and the voice of the customer and those things a lot, and it's difficult sometimes to have those conversations in deeply technical organizations where you have subject matter experts that know their technology extremely well, but hearing you talk about the voice of the customer and the empathy for the customer, I think I would agree with you, that is a differentiator. If we think about the definition of innovation being creativity, ideation, and inventiveness that results in new ways of doing things, talk to us a little bit about how you've harnessed or leveraged innovation within OzIC to drive business results for your company.
Sure. Well, I said, again, innovation for our company, it starts with the people. We've collected just an outstanding team and with a lot of diversity of thought in that team. People with different backgrounds, and we've got young guys who have been, have done research and come out of school. From that side, we've got guys that have spent, decades in industry, and we try to foster an environment where, when we go to tackle a problem, it isn't done in a vacuum. It's not just Matt's going to go write a proposal for this customer. We get together, brainstorm through those solutions. and then come up with a proposal, whether that's literally a proposal or something we want to try. I think the other part of it is just building the capability, and so we're kind of, I like to say we're scrappers. We just, we'll go buy a used this or a used that, refurbish it, modify it, adjust it, and some of our test systems you can't buy on the market. We've bought a furnace or a chamber or whatever test apparatus that we need to get the job done, gone in, made the modifications, and made like really unique capabilities.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
well, I was going to play back some of the things that I heard because I think they're really
Sure.
they really stand out. And Jeff Amaran, you'll recognize some of these things. Just in the last 3 minutes of what you said, I heard talent. And cultivating that talent toward innovation. I heard environment and culture, building the environment,
Sure.
collaboration, which is part of that as well, coming together, brainstorming. I heard capability and process. So you actually have built a capability for innovation. And then I've heard throughout the discussion today, iteration and pivot, right? Iterate, reiterate. You can't buy it on the market. You create, you pivot, et cetera.
Yes.
So all of those core factors that again, you don't hear a lot in a deeply technical organization. So I'm really kudos to you for figuring those things out and harnessing them to generate the kind of innovation that you've generated.
Yeah.
And Matt, it'd be interesting for you to also talk about, you've had this history of being in the front end of R&D and some really cutting edge stuff. The company's in a position now to transition, at least in part, to full-scale production, putting out, delivering the devices that are the result of a bunch of years of R&D. If you think about how to give advice to innovative R&D-focused companies about making that transition, what have you learned so far, and what do you anticipate will be things you will learn as you go through it?
Sure. Well, I think the key to getting there has been, summarizing what you guys just said, is just you have to own the problem. And I think that's what has, if I had to pick one thing that has got us here, it's that we, if we know what the problem is and we have our technology and there's a gap, let's just own the problem, whether we are experts at that or not. Either become experts at it or go find the experts. Own the whole problem and don't let those gaps be excuses. And then as far as taking that now and applying it to actually making the stuff, we've learned some lessons. Everything's 3 times harder than you think it's going to be. That's of making stuff. But we've done those. We've gone round and round and round about what is our key capability and what should we invest in and what should we outsource. And what I keep coming back to, especially as a strong R&D driven company, is that every time we bring a capability in and we dial it in for production, we learn things that we can apply back to R&D because we actually now really know how you do it. And you can have the best partnership in the world. And we have some awesome partnerships, by the way. We have some great suppliers and stuff. But with your key technologies, you can have the best supplier in the world, and just things get lost in translation about that, where you're literally the difference between sitting there running the machine versus, explaining a process flow. And I think some of our most innovative IP has been developed literally while we were making something for a product, and then realizing, this is why it's that way. I wonder if 3 steps back we had done this, if it would work better. And so, I think that
you're actually able to engineer. You're actually able to engineer for producibility, so that production gets more straightforward with less risk.
Yeah, because you have the observability where all the knobs are. You also own all the knobs, and you have to make them all work. But you have the observability you need to know. I could just go back here and twist this knob and make all of this way easier. And so, like I said, that's whenever I get frustrated with because the challenges of production it has its own unique challenges in getting yield and reliability and all that. but the payoffs they feed all the way back to your product development side if you actually know what it takes to get the product out.
So as we start winding down here, Matt, we want to leave our listeners with some maybe pearls of wisdom. As you start thinking about strategic, sustainable growth for Ozark Integrated Circuits, what does the future look like?
Well, I said I guess we have a strategy. For better or for worse, when people come to us, we just generally don't say no, unless the problem is just way out of left field and not something that we're remotely familiar with. We will listen to almost any problem. We have built some crazy thing customers that are not remotely what I would call extreme environment. But somebody came knocking. We said, yeah, we could do that. And some of my oldest, longest in the field products are actually, there's some pieces of software and things that have just been out there and they've worked. But through those processes, making that, even though it's completely different from what our core products are, you still develop your customer relationships, your basic business practices. You develop your support structures and all those kind of things. And so I think that's one key takeaway for tech startups is don't be afraid to take something. It's better to take some sort of straight up commercial opportunity, even if it's unrelated. Take it on. And you will grow up tremendously very quickly, and then it's going to pay huge dividends when you get your technologies and your products in the field. Those can become teacher customers for you, and I have a good list of teacher customers. I would love to thank for work we did for them. Hopefully they were happy with it, and we learned a ton from just doing it. I think that's one.
Yeah,
Go
we
ahead.
just hear this customer empathy kind of woven throughout the conversation today, and that, just as you just described, continuing to listen to the customer and provide solutions that solve their problems.
Exactly. I said, I try to tell my folks that, when we go into a customer call, a successful customer call is, don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes tooting your own horn. Let the customer talk to you.
Very good.
Tell them enough about what we do so that they can start making the connections in their head of, oh, okay, that's what you guys do. Well, this is the problem I need to solve, and then you have the conversation. But yeah, I think I agree. I think that listening and empathy has probably been our single biggest strength in solving problems.
Matt, if the listeners, and they may likely want to do this, want to find out more about Ozark Integrated Circuits, or they want to reach you directly to kind of pick your brain, what's the best way for them to find out more?
Sure, you can. You can go browse our website, ozarkic.com. We've got presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. If you want to follow kind of the latest goings on for Ozark. You can reach out to, the best way to reach out to Ozark is our general email address, info@ozarkic.com.
Fantastic. Congratulations again on winning the Mass Challenge this year and all the accolades you got with that. It's a very selective group that gets that, and then that's really the who's who in innovation that gets into that. And so you guys did extremely well. It was amazing to see.
Matt?
It was a lot of fun. It was, and it's been a lot of fun talking with you guys today.
We
have a great
appreciate you
rest
for
of
being
your day.
with us, and we will see you all on the next episode.
Hey listeners, this is Jeff Amrine. We want to thank you for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate your time. If you're enjoying the Innovation Junkies podcast, please do us a huge favor. Click the subscribe button right now and leave us a review. It would mean the world to both of us. And don't forget to share us on social media.